Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely. Always up for a good deep dive, especially into something I haven't heard of yet.
Well, today we're taking a closer look at an album called Everything's Balearic When You Believe by Mike Wilson, who also goes by 100 Poems. And just a heads up, we'll be using an interview with Mike from the Chris Howell Jones YouTube channel as our source material.
Sounds intriguing. I'm not super familiar with 100 Poems, but I love the album title. So what exactly are we diving into today?
We're going way beyond the typical album review. We're gonna uncover the creative process, the inspiration behind the music, what makes it tick, and what makes this album resonate with so many people.
Getting into the nitty-gritty, huh? That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And right off the bat, you'll notice Mike dedicates a song to his wife.
Oh, cool. A little shout-out, huh? That's sweet.
Yeah, it's more than just a sweet gesture, though. It hints at something really personal woven throughout the whole album. You know what I mean?
Right. Like we're getting a glimpse into his life, like we're hearing his emotions through the music.
Exactly. And that personal touch is rooted in his upbringing. Mike was practically raised on music.
Really?
Yeah, both his parents were musical, and his mom, get this, his mom was an Irish dancing champion.
Whoa, no way.
Yeah. Can you imagine growing up in a house like that? Music everywhere, all the time.
I can only imagine. It's amazing how those early experiences shape us, It's like in Mike's case, it's obvious that this constant exposure to music and performance really paved the way for his own creative journey.
For sure. And get this, those musical seeds started sprouting early. By age 12, he was already messing around with tape recorders, creating his own music. Pretty impressive, right?
Seriously, talk about a DIY spirit. That's a pretty crucial detail, though, right? It's like this whole DIY ethos is like baked into the album from the start. It wasn't some big studio production. This was Mike like pouring his heart and soul into making something unique. That independent spirit just shines through,
100%. And speaking of that independent spirit, we got to talk about his teenage band, Utopia Now, they called themselves.
Utopia Now. That's the name, all right?
Right. They even had a pirate radio station. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That really shows that rebellious DIY energy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like almost foreshadowing the path he took later on, choosing to create and release his music independently. I mean, it's a common thread, right?
Definitely. And it's so interesting how his musical journey took him from dancing in front of the decks to actually wanting to be the DJ.
Right.
In the interview, he talks about this incredible energy in the early house music scenes, and it's obvious that experience really left a mark on him.
Yeah, there's this real sense of nostalgia, isn't there? Like they're looking back at these intimate clubs, that raw energy. It's a stark contrast to these huge festivals that are everywhere now. Have you noticed a similar shift?
It makes you wonder, right? Has something been lost in that transition? Moving from these smaller, more intimate events to these massive festivals.
Exactly. It's like what's gained and what's lost in that shift.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that that Mike decided to structure his album like a classic vinyl record with A and B sides.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a reaction to all the fragmentation in music today.
That's a great point. He's saying, hey, slow down, listen to this as a whole experience. Kind of like a rejection of that shuffle button. It's about experiencing the album as a journey, not just a bunch of random tracks.
Yeah, exactly. It's a reminder that albums were meant to be listened to as a whole. Each track builds upon the last,
Yeah.
They tell a story.
Totally. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about the music itself. Mike plays almost every instrument on the album. There are only 2 guest appearances.
Really? Wow. So this is DIY on another level then. Not only did he record and release the album independently, but he played everything too.
Pretty much. And that gives the album a really distinctive feel, a rawness that you don't always find in electronic music, especially stuff that's been, heavily produced.
Right. It has that organic human element that's just so powerful.
Exactly. He starts each song with guitar and melody, then adds the electronics on top. And what's really cool is that he creates all his own drum tracks too, no samples.
Seriously. That's amazing. It would have been so much easier to just use, pre-made loops or whatever.
Sure. But he wanted to craft every element from scratch. And it really shows. The level of dedication is just incredible.
It really is.
And it's not just about the music. Mike also decided to release the album on Blue Monday. And all the proceeds, they all go to these charities, Jigsaw and Shelter.
Wow, that's
It
amazing.
really speaks to this deeper purpose behind his art, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this beautiful intersection of creativity and compassion. Like,
Right.
he's reminding us that art can be a force for good, a way to make a positive impact on the world, you know?
Exactly. So we have this incredibly talented artist. He's creating this unique sound, built his own studio, plays all the instruments, and then he uses his music to support these important causes.
Really inspiring stuff.
It is, and the response to the album has been incredible. It's become this, like, word-of-mouth success, you know?
Yeah, I love that. It proves that authentic music, music that's created with heart, it can still find its audience.
100%. People are really connecting with the honesty, that raw emotion in Mike's music. But before we go too far, we need to understand what makes this album Balearic. What does that even mean, you know?
That's a great question. It's like the key to understanding the whole thing, really. Balearic originally referred to this music that came out of the Balearic Islands back in the 80s. It was this mix of genres, like electronica, pop, and world music.
Gotcha.
It's often described as having this laid-back, sunny vibe, incorporating elements of disco, house, even folk music.
So it's not like a strict genre then. It's more about a feeling, an atmosphere.
You got it. It's about capturing that sense of freedom, of escapism. You know, like you're on a beach somewhere, the sun's shining, and the perfect soundtrack is playing. And Mike, with his Irish heritage and his love for electronic music, brings his own unique flavor to that sound.
Yeah, you can definitely hear all those influences, can't you? But it goes beyond just the music. The album art, it reinforces this idea too. It's like it shows these landscapes from the Balearic Islands alongside images of Ireland.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
It's almost like he's blending these two worlds, these two cultures together, you know?
And that's where the title comes in, right?
Yeah.
Everything's Balearic when you believe. It's like he's saying this feeling of freedom, of open-mindedness. It's not tied to a specific place. It's a state of mind, like finding your own personal paradise, wherever that might be.
I love that. It's like Balearic is more than just a type of music. It's a way of looking at the world, an attitude.
And that attitude is like woven throughout the whole album, wouldn't you say? The DIY ethos, the mix of genres, even the fact that he's donating the proceeds to charity.
Absolutely. It's all about breaking down boundaries, embracing diversity, creating something truly unique. Which, speaking of, we can't forget that connection Mike has to Martin Ware from the Human League.
Oh yeah, what was that about?
Mike credits Martin with being like a huge inspiration early on in his music journey, and then later they actually met and even collaborated on some projects together. It's such a cool full circle moment. You know, it really shows how interconnected the music world is.
Definitely. And it's inspiring to see how one artist can spark something in another.
Yeah.
You know, lead them down a path to create something special. But this is just the beginning of our deep dive. We'll be back with part 2 to explore Mike's thoughts on how dance music has evolved. And we'll talk about those early club scenes and how they compare to the massive festivals we see today. Picking up where we left off, that shift from intimate clubs to massive festivals Mike was talking about is a really interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about how we experience music these days, how we connect with the artists.
Right, in those smaller venues,
Yeah,
there's that feeling of intimacy, like a shared energy between the DJ and the crowd.
totally. Like you're all in it together, you know?
Exactly. It's like being part of a collective heartbeat, of a shared experience. It's personal and communal at the same time. And I mean, you can't deny the energy of those big festivals, but there's often this distance between the performer and the audience.
It's almost like seeing your favorite band in a small club versus a giant stadium. The whole vibe is different.
Exactly. And maybe that's why Mike chose to structure his album like a vinyl record with distinct sides. You know, I don't know, just thinking out loud here, but it could be like he's pushing back against all the fragmentation in how we listen to music now.
That's a really interesting thought. Like
Yeah.
he's saying, hey, slow down. Listen to this as a whole piece of art.
Right, it's like a rejection of the shuffle button. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's about experiencing the album as a journey, not just a random collection of tracks.
Oh, exactly. Like albums were meant to be listened to. It's like a story unfolding track by track.
Yeah.
And everything's Balearic. Definitely feels like a journey.
It really does. There's an ebb and flow,
Yeah,
you know?
like a carefully curated experience.
Yeah.
And that intentionality, it goes beyond just the structure of the album, too. It's in everything Mike does. The instrumentation, the decision to donate the proceeds to charity.
Yeah, it all points to a deeper purpose, doesn't it? Like he wants to create something meaningful, something that matters.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
This album isn't just about making people dance. It's about something much bigger.
Like connecting with people, inspiring them, you know?
Exactly. Using music as a vehicle for positive change. Spreading a message of hope and unity. And that's something we could all use a little more of these days, right?
For sure. It's like he's reminding us that we're all connected, that we can find common ground through music.
Right, and that brings us back to that Balearic spirit, doesn't it?
How so?
It's about finding beauty in the unexpected. Embracing diversity. Creating something beautiful out of all these different elements.
Breaking down barriers, opening our minds to new possibilities. And Mike's album does exactly that.
It really does. It's a blend of genres, cultures, personal experiences, all coming together to create something truly unique and inspiring.
And what's so inspiring about Mike's story is that he didn't wait for anyone to give him permission to create. He just did it, you know?
He didn't wait for a record deal or a fancy studio. He built his own studio, learned to play all the instruments, made the music he wanted to make.
It's a testament to the power of passion, isn't it? Having a vision and going for it, no matter what.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that we all have that power to create. We don't need fancy equipment or a big budget.
We just need the drive, the passion, and the willingness to put ourselves out there.
Exactly. And Mike's story is proof that authenticity and heart, they can still resonate in a world that's often so focused on perfection.
It's refreshing, isn't it? It's like a reminder that music can be raw, emotional, imperfect, and still be incredibly powerful.
Definitely. It's a testament to the power of human connection, expressed through music shared experiences, and that belief in something bigger than ourselves.
Before we move on, though, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. Mike talked about the challenges and triumphs of working as a solo artist.
Oh, yeah. What did he say about that?
Well, on one hand, you have all this freedom to explore your ideas, but on the other hand, there's the potential for isolation, you know?
Right. It's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. But Mike seems to have found a good balance. He talked about the importance of setting aside dedicated studio time, treating it like a job, even when the inspiration isn't flowing.
That takes discipline, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when you're feeling alone. And that dedication is reflected in the music. Every note, every beat feels carefully considered.
It's clear that he poured his heart and soul into this project.
He really did. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to bring it back to that central theme. Everything's Balearic when you believe.
Such a powerful message.
It really is. It's about more than just the music. It's a way of looking at the world, you know?
Absolutely. It's about being open to new experiences. Finding beauty in unexpected places. Believing in the power of music to connect us.
And for Mike, that connection comes through community, through making a positive impact on the world. But what does it mean for you, the listener?
That's the beauty of this deep dive, isn't it? We're not here to tell you what to think.
We're just giving you the tools to form your own conclusions.
Exactly. We've explored Mike's journey, his influences, the DIY spirit of the album, the deeper themes that resonate throughout. Now it's your turn to connect the dots.
To find your own meaning in the music and in the message. Wow, we've covered a lot in this deep dive, haven't we?
We have. It's amazing how much there is to unpack with this album. Everything's Balearic when you believe. It's not just music, it's a whole philosophy.
Right. Like, I'm really struck by how Mike Wilson has managed to combine his passion for music with his desire to, make a difference in the world.
It's really inspiring to see someone walking the walk, isn't it? Not just talking about it.
Absolutely. And it's not just about donating the album proceeds to charity. It's like, it's woven into everything. The DIY ethos, that commitment to creating something truly unique, and the message of unity and open-mindedness, it's all connected.
It's a powerful reminder that art can be a force for good, It can bring people together, inspire change and all that.
And speaking of connection, we talked about that contrast between those intimate club scenes and the huge festivals that dominate the scene now. It seems like Mike really misses that personal connection,
Yeah, I get that. There's something special about the smaller venues. It's like you're all experiencing the music together in the same space, breathing the same air.
Exactly. And maybe that's why he structured the album like a vinyl record with those distinct sides. Like he's saying, hey, slow down, listen to this as a complete work.
Right. Like it's meant to be a journey and experience, not just background noise.
Totally. He's encouraging us to savor the music, connect with the emotions behind it.
And that brings us back to the title, doesn't it? Everything's Balearic when you believe.
What do you think he means by that?
Well, it's about more than just a genre of music, right? It's about a way of seeing the world.
Like being open to new experiences and all that?
Exactly. Finding beauty in unexpected places. Believing in the power of music to bring people together. And, creating your own paradise wherever you are.
I love that. It's a beautiful message, really. And Mike has definitely created something special with this album. It's a blend of so many things: his personal experiences, musical influences, his desire to make a positive impact.
It's all there, isn't it?
It is. So as you listen to Everything's Balearic When You Believe, and you can find a link to it in the show notes, we encourage you to really listen closely.
Pay attention to the details, the layers of sound, the way the tracks flow together.
Think about how Mike's DIY approach and his use of live instruments, how that shapes the overall sound.
And most importantly, how does the album's message resonate with you? What does it mean to embrace the Balearic spirit in your own life?
It's a question worth pondering. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of Everything's Balearic When You Believe with us.
It's been a real pleasure diving deep into this one.
And remember, everything's Balearic when you believe. Until next time, keep diving deep, everyone.